Right, ready guys? Mask off. Welcome. How's it going? You alright? Yes. All you fine? Great. Got a little catch on Michelle today. Once again making everybody look underdressed. I feel a little bit underdressed. Lucy, how do you feel? Alright. You feel alright? Okay. So we've got a very special host with us today. Lucy, how you doing? Good, thank you. So, are you happy to be here? Well, happy to be here. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's great. You might do a better job than the other guy who did this. It was great. So we still have 10 minutes. You just help out on the technical side of things as well. Do you want to give us a high test? Hello, guys. So, guys, welcome back to day 2 of the Reset Lab. We went through a lot of stuff yesterday. It was pretty intense, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a lot to take in. I remember I was chatting to my friends about it yesterday, and they had some of their kids that were watching and said that we should be doing more than this. Some of them were saying it was better than some of the stuff that the schools provided over lockdown. But, you know what I mean? We're not going to name names. But today, we've got 2 big topics, actually, and 2 very big ones, very important ones. We're looking at plastics, and we're looking at connections as well. So connections, friends, family, stuff that binds us together. But I think plastics being the start is a big connection. We all use plastic in our day-to-day. I've got a plastic watch, potentially plastic on my trainers, and I'll plastic. Have you guys got anything with plastic on? Bottles, pens. I think Lucy might be the only one who's plastic free right now. Badges? No, they're all metal. Jeez, plastic free badge lifestyle. That's great. I think that's what you've got to strive to sort of work towards. So Lucy, you are joining us just for the morning. You're going to be like our plastic guru. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you into the whole? What got you so passionate and interested in plastic?
I started when I watched a Blue Planet 2
Okay.
clip, and
Which one was it?
I think, I don't know exactly of them, but it was like when I was 7 or something.
Okay.
And when I watched it, there was this mother whale who ate plastic and it poisoned her milk, and then she gave her calf the milk, and that poisoned the calf, and the calf died, and the mother whale carried the
Music video, like all in stop motion and stuff.
Yeah.
The video like they were swimming, and like they had like little objects coming, and like they were like diving around and stuff. Obviously, if you're lying down and you're pushing yourself off the ground, they look really good. It took hours, absolutely hours, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's what you do when you're in your 30s. You make use of the time and energy you have and make like great videos online. So, do you guys have TikTok? Do you use it?
No, I don't have any social media.
Well, how can you decide to go completely dark on social media?
Well, I haven't gone completely dark. My mum runs Twitter for me.
Right, okay.
I think it sounds
We're good. Oh, we're good? Yeah. Alright, okay. So guys, thank you and welcome back to the Reset Lab. I'm Kofi. We have
Lucy.
thank you very much for joining us and bearing with us with all the technical issues. What we'll talk about, we're going to be looking at plastics as today is the morning theme is the beauty of plastic. And Lucy, you were telling us about what made you so passionate about plastics. Because you've done the TED Talk, you seem to be leading the charge in this conversation for young people. What is it about plastic that makes you feel like I've got to get involved with this, I've got to tackle this?
So when I was about 7, I watched a Blue Planet 2 film, and there was a mother whale, and she ate some plastic, and that poisoned her milk. And she had a calf, and when she gave the calf that milk, what happened is that poisoned the calf, and the calf died. And the mother whale, she carried the calf around for weeks afterwards, not bearing to part with it. And that made me really upset, and I was thinking I have to do something, because at that time I'd just got a new baby brother, and I was thinking about my baby brother and my mum
Right, okay.
when I watched it.
Right.
So I started off by doing posters and letter picks, and he just went on from there, really.
And you're going to help us today, you're going to help us become a bit more plastic savvy.
Hopefully.
You started laughing then, what was that look for? Like, oh my god, these guys are hopeless. You see that? I think we might be alright. I think we can learn a thing or two by lunchtime. But I know that I'm confident that you're going to help us show us the way, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have all the usual stuff happening today. Calvin is back, he's doing his live stream there. Can we just get a whip around to Calvin over there, please? He's doing his thing. He is logged on. He's going to be drawing and answering your questions all day. All you need to do is head over to facebook.com/Calvin in his art, and you'll be able to see what he's doing. Ask him some questions. We had a go at drawing some worms and some pansies today. It did not turn out the best today, but hopefully we might have a bit more of a masterclass. So yeah, make sure you get involved with Calvin on his Facebook page. That website again, that address again, Calvin in his art at Facebook. Honestly, it's a class. The monsters that we were drawing yesterday, I can see now it looks like he's got a map, a breakdown of how to draw faces. So honestly, he's really giving you some insider tips on stuff that you could be doing and practicing if you are out there, if you're out a budding artist. And also, Matt, we have to mention the wonderful makerspace. Now, you've created some fantastic little bits of merchandise for his guinea pig. You want to pass it over, we just brought it up? What do you think to that? Would you buy one of these, Lucy?
Yeah.
Yes. It's actually one of one. It's a very limited edition, special edition. So you made it here at the Makerspace, is that right? So you've got all sorts of equipment here, and it's definitely a resource that we want more people to be aware about. It's £10 a month for a student, it's £20 a month for a non-student, and they have access to all sorts of machines. They've got maps, they've got like a mini photography studio, they've got a laser cutter, they've got a 3D printer, and they've got a printing press like t-shirts and clothes and all that sort of stuff. It's a fantastic resource. But anyone that wants to flex their creative juices and muscles, so make sure you head over to Hull Library's website to find out some more information about the Makerspace. And obviously this is on the Reset Lab in conjunction with the Freedom Festival. So yeah, it's good. There's a lot of information there, and there's going to be a lot more information coming about the various things we're going to be talking about. What is the first thing we're going to be watching today, Will?
We're going to be watching the plastic wrap.
Okay.
It's made fully by young people. None of us have watched it yet.
This is all new to us, so we're going to take this and see what it's all about. It's meant to be a real rough cut. This is specially been sent to us so we can see, so we can just sort of like test it out and see how it goes. So I want to thank the guys at My Pockets who put this together. Yeah, it's going to be, I like this, when nothing else has been seen by anyone before, we get to sort of get our eyes on it and see what's happening. But it's quite cool that the students at Hull University are so on it with this journey towards plastics. I'm pretty sure we might hear from Calvin later on, because him and his team was behind. Did you guys see that giant turtle that was on the campus of the Hull University? That was basically, did you see it?
Yeah, my dad showed me.
It was sick, and it was there to pretty much show the amount of waste that was in the ocean, isn't it? So, anyways, let's have a look at this. This is a plastic wrap, not a wrap you can eat. A plastic wrap. It's actually a plastic wrap. What was that? Was that your?
I'm just a drink cup and you can call me Red. I kinda feel like I'm hanging on by a thread. Ever since I took my trip onto the streets, when I was just chilling on somebody's car seat. My journey starts when I was split into parts. People just don't think when they throw me out of cars. Into the woods and around the neighbourhoods, scattered near and far. This really isn't good. Hi, I'm Riley, I'm a plastic bottle. I'm here to tell the world all about my battle with plastic pollution destroying the sea. I wouldn't be here if it was up to me. I'm hating lots of fish and turtles around. The sea is not a place where bottles should be found. Please be responsible and just recycle. Protect the environment, it's so vital. Where the trash left on the floor, this is a song you can't ignore. So let's take action right away, cause if you don't, you'll surely pay. Everyone come off your seat and clap your hands to the beat. Keep your rubbish off the ground and play your part, don't let us down. My name's Rose, that's my introduction. I've been used for reconstruction. I was a crisp packet from someone's jacket, feeling so blue with no one to talk to. But then somebody found me up in the hills that knew how to use their recycling skills. Now I'm so happy because I'm part of a wall with other eco bricks all standing tall. My name's Reese and I'm a plastic spoon. I was left on the beach one afternoon. The people walked off and never noticed me. Then the tide came in and swept me out to sea. A seagull came down and pecked me away, then dropped me on the ground. I was left to decay, nowhere to stay, discarded by the bay, with humans walking by me every day. Where the trash left on the floor, this is a song you can't ignore. So let's take action right away, cause if you don't, you'll surely pay. Everyone come off your seat and clap your hands to the beat. Keep your rubbish off the ground and play your part, don't let us down. I was a baby turtle swimming in the sea. My life went sideways after what I'd seen. I remember when my home was beautiful and clean. Now it's full of plastic and polystyrene. That's when I knew I had to make my voice heard. The pain it was causing was really upset, but there's so many people that stand in my way. No one should think that littering's okay. At Pollutants Anonymous I met 4 friends, and this is where our story begins. It was Rose, Raleigh, Red and Reese. We started to try and put the world at peace. A better world may seem out of reach, but reducing waste is the aim of our speech. If we listen up and we do our bit, the earth won't become just a plastic pit. Reuse, recycle, repurpose, reduce. Time to think about the rubbish we produce. Reuse, recycle, repurpose, reduce. One day in the future we can make a truce. There you go. And then it kind of like fades out as you're doing that. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So, there you go. Let me stop that recording and see how that came.
Alright, guys, what do you think? Lucy, what do you think of that?
I think it was really good.
Had some good message in there, Will?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
One of the things that really sort of stood out to me was when they threw the rubbish out the window.
Yeah.
I see a lot of that because I do a lot of long distance running, especially in countryside, and the amount of times I'm just running around and just like, literally, you guys must have seen it. You guys must have seen it by the side of the road. Huge bags of like McDonald's, Burger King. I just stuck the sound going through someone's heads and just like look out the window. Like, where do you think that sort of attitude comes from? What do you think causes it?
I don't know.
Laziness,
Yeah.
just bad habits, that sort of thing. Yeah. Honestly, I can't. Do you know one of those things that just doesn't make sense to you personally?
Yeah.
You never do it. You never think that's something that's okay. It's just a bit mad, but it's something that happens. But I did like the fact that they put in it's a bit hopeful how you could rebuild houses and stuff using plastic. So have you guys seen that?
Yeah. Eco-bricks.
Eco bricks, yeah. And I had like a massive eco brick failure. So I had about 10 2-litre bottles full of plastic. You know, I literally thought it was jam-packed. There's no more plastic you could get into the bottle. So have you seen them before? Where you literally just fill them up with other bits of discarded plastic, wrappers, crisp packets, like sweets, this sort of stuff, exactly what you've got there. Things like that, any bits of plastic you don't need, you just sort of cut it up. Well, you're meant to, what I found out later on, you're meant to actually cut up the plastic and put them in the bottle. But I was like doing what you were doing, Lucy, just sort of like scumpling it up, putting it in there, like really stuffing it down. And they were quite heavy. Literally, they got to a point where nothing could go in. I took them down to the young man Callum had like the eco brick sort of drop off place in the market, and it's like, I can't take any of these. I was like, because you can get, they need to be like super compact. And I spent months like packing loads of plastic and I had these 10 2-litre bottles. It's like, I can't take any of them. And the hardest thing is that I couldn't take all the plastic out, so I had to cut some of the plastic bottles open, take all the plastic out that way, and then spend ages cutting all the plastic into like a bucket, putting it into a funnel, and then getting it into the plastic bottle. And then it managed to get down from 10 to like 4, because the plastic compacts that much when you sort of put it up and put it into other bottles. But they need it like that, so it's as strong and as sturdy as possible. There's no air in it, so like the motion things like that. But, which is interesting. It's quite a long process. I think for quite a lot of people that is quite labour intensive. So I think they want to try and figure out a way to sort of make it a little bit easier to send it, so we can use eco-bricks. But I think it's a hopeful sort of way of sort of using people being able to reuse plastics on a local scale. So was there anything else in the video that you guys saw that you think stood out to you all, or sort of rekindle anything?
Like when the person kind of kicked the crisp packet into the river.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Like if you see plastic or like crisp packets, cans, wrappers on the floor in the street, do you sometimes think I should pick that up, or why is that on the floor?
Before COVID, I used to pick it all up, but now due to COVID, I don't know what's safe and what's not.
Okay, that's logical. Well, what do you think?
Pick it up.
But I always think like it's not necessarily our it's not. Is it our responsibility to pick up other people's rubbish? Because it is one planet, it's one thing, isn't it?
It's our planet, so we can't look after it.
But picking up rubbish after other people is quite an interesting dilemma. Because I was doing it the other day, and I was thinking, I know I'm keeping the place clean, but should I actually be doing this? And sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't have to pick that up. It's like, why? I don't know. What do you guys think? If you have any thoughts or opinions as to what we're talking about, make sure you follow us on Twitter. We're at Makerspace and at Hull.libraries as well. And use the hashtag ResetLab. We can sort of put people's ideas around plastic. So I think that's quite interesting. Whose responsibility is it to keep the streets clean, to keep the streets free of plastic? Should we be picking up other people's plastic as decent models, citizens? Do we have a social responsibility to do so? I think that's an interesting one. Maybe that could be your next TED Talk. Maybe. Honestly, when do you go back to school? Is it this week?
Yeah, it's on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, yeah. Put that to your classmates when you guys go back. Whose responsibility is it to keep the streets clean? Think about it. So we're going to be seeing the plastic wrap, and again a bit later on. So thank you very much to the guys at My Pockets for lending us that. And we know it was a rough cut, but it worked. I can't wait to see the final model. I do like the music. It reminded me a little bit of like musicians, but like Asher Roth, Easy Life. But like I think they've got some sort of the Alien Blood Sugar sort of say local band called Blood Sugar sort of vibes in there as well. It's good. Good to see where they take it. Maybe we'll get a bit more. I think when you see stuff like that, you sort of you're more likely to sort of remember what's going on with plastics in the future as well. I can imagine that as like a 30-second advert as well. If they could cut it down a bit, just have the main points pop up. It's a little bit of a nationwide campaign to remind people about what is going on and I guess plastic awareness, plastic responsibility. So Lucy, what else are we going to be looking at later on today?
Well, I'm going to tell you what the 4 R's are.
Okay.
What being a campaigner involves, and how others can get involved with global action.
Okay, excellent. So you're going to almost like a rally cry. It's going to be a call to arms to get people really sort of in the mindset of what they need to be doing about plastics and what stuff. It's such a big conversation, isn't it? It's a big topic. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to do a bit. It's like, what can I do? What can I do from where I live? What can I do for my own home? What can I do with my friends in the school? And I guess you're going to be the jumping off point and let people know how they can get involved in that. I think this righteous mission, the Holy Crusade. I love it. I'd love to see where you're at about 5-10 years time. See what improvements. Are you hopeful about this? Are you thinking there's more work to do? So you might be traveling the world teaching people what to do with their plastics and stuff. Who knows? It's a big journey that you're taking on. I think it's great. Will, what else are we going to be looking at today?
Professor Dan Carson's Plastic Future.
Okay, what's all that about?
About how we've created a monster of plastic.
Do you agree with I did not know that. I did not. That's really interesting. Now you think, yeah, plastic bags replace the paper bags, but then you think the paper bags. But now the paper bags are sort of coming back. So we just sort of replacing one problem. We should trying to fix one problem with another.
And we need to find ways to reuse and recycle plastics
Okay.
to reduce plastic in our environment.
I think we should come up with some ideas ourselves as to what we would do to sort of reuse and repurpose plastics. We're try and come up with a list. Once we've seen like Dan Parsons' presentation, we'll sort of share them, see what solutions we can come with. We did something similar yesterday. We were trying to come up with inventions that could, well, not meant to help the world, but we sort of came up with inventions that would help ourselves, help our own day to day. Wasn't very well. Well, yours and Ted's were quite beneficial to the rest of the world. Mine were just like, mine were quite selfish really. So if I'm alright, the world should be right. That's what my mindset was. But yeah, I think we'll come up with a few things, maybe like 5 to 10 things of different ways to be able to sort of reuse and repurpose plastic, any ideas on plastic. And obviously, you guys at home, get your list down as well, share it with us at Makerspace on Twitter, at Hall.Libraries on Twitter as well. Also use the hashtag ResetLab and share it around and stuff. I'll get some stuff out on my social media channels if you want to get in touch with us through there as well. So we'll see what we can come up with. And we're going to have the Makerspace crafts as well. We've got paper houses, castles, cranes and t-shirt designs. We're going to be showing you about some of the stuff that you can do with some of the equipment that we have here in the Makerspace. So there's a lot going on, big themes, big things to talk about. We're going to be fine though. We've got Lucy here, she's going to be guiding us, going to be keeping us on straight and narrow. And obviously Will's going to be coming up with some of the suggestions that are definitely going to save the world in the future. He's not going to use it for nefarious means and turn himself into an evil villain. That's what we were quite worried about yesterday. Yeah, he's come back today a bit more level-headed. He's like, I'm going to save the world this time, so take it over. So, okay, so we're not going to be having the journey of plastic for another 10 minutes. So if you want to, I don't know, get something to eat, get a drink, and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes time. You can keep watching us on the Freedom Festival app, on the Big Malaki website, and also on the Freedom Festival website. I'm Kofi.
I'm Will.
And I'm Lucy.
And this is the Reset Lab. Morning everybody, welcome back to the Reset Lab. I'm Covey Smiles.
I'm Will.
And I'm Lucy.
And we're talking about plastics this morning. Coming up we have the journey of plastics. It's quite interesting because I was googling some stuff for a project we were doing at work, and I was looking at, okay, how do we get plastics? What happened, what is involved with the process, and what goes on with the waste, and I was very, very surprised to see just how much waste that there is, and all the stuff that comes from, whether I get plastics and bits from oil. It's quite mad, isn't it? And it's just the fact that we use quite a lot of this in our day-to-day, we use it in skincare, and the fact that if stuff that sits in plastic bottles can sometimes be contaminated, and it affects us, and what you were talking about, Lucy, with the whale that was eating loads of plastics and how it poisoned her baby. Essentially, we're sort of doing it to ourselves day to day by the stuff that we consume that lives in plastic containers. So, learning how to understand how to change that behaviour, how to sort of know where plastic comes from. Do you think if people knew more about this sort of stuff, it would change their attitudes to plastic?
Probably.
Do you reckon? Do you think so?
Probably wouldn't litter as much.
People wouldn't litter as much?
Yeah, if they knew the consequences.
Do you think people would buy less products that come in plastic, like plastic containers, buy food that comes in plastic bags or plastic packaging? Think they would buy less of that if they knew the real sort of cost and consequence of the transferring of plastic debris into like apples and tomatoes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you know that glue, like PVA glue, is actually melted plastic?
Is that the I haven't been in school for a long time. PVA glue, is that the stuff that comes in the
It's
Yeah.
like the kind of dribbly.
the one that comes in the how do they keep it constantly in that sort of
I
stuff?
don't know, but I just heard that it was
It's melted plastic.
melted down plastic.
I remember there was a kid in my school who used to eat it all the time. He used to just sit there and put up his paper and just stick it in his mouth.
Sometimes I used to dip my fingers in and then just pick it off.
Pick
I
it
was
off.
bored.
Oh god. Oh yeah, flick skin. Anyways, as we talk about what we used to do at school with plastic, here is the journey of plastic.
Millions and millions of years ago, small animals such as plankton and plants such as algae sank to the bottom of oceans and lakes, where they decomposed under the pressure and heat of sand, clay and other minerals. Over millions of years, this produced crude oil. This is then extracted and pumped to an oil refinery, where it is separated into different petroleum liquids and gases, which are used to make monomers. The monomers are linked together using chemical reactions or additives to become polymers, which is how different plastics are formed. These are made into pellets or nurdles, the building blocks of plastics. Nurdles are transported to factories and processed into different plastic products, where they are shipped all over the world. Plastics are an amazing material, allowing huge advances in medicine, computers, communication and travel. The problem with plastic is that much of it is single use and can't be recycled. Of all the plastics ever produced, only 9% has been recycled. After millions of years of processes, the work of thousands of people and travelling thousands of miles, plastic products are used for seconds and then thrown away, where they take hundreds of years to break down, or end up in the environment and eventually our oceans, where it causes harm. Animals get tangled in plastic or mistake it for food. The plastic releases chemicals within them and also makes them feel full when they are not, so they may starve. The chemicals leached from plastics can also pass and accumulate up food chains, causing further harm. The smell of plastic may even attract some animals to eat it. Another problem to consider is microplastics, which is plastic smaller than 5 millimeters. Common forms include fragments from the breakdown of larger plastics, nurdles which get spilled during plastic production, and fibres from our clothes and other materials. They may pose an even greater threat than larger plastics due to their small size, making them more available for animals to eat throughout the food chain, from tiny krill and corals to whales and turtles. Their small size also makes it much harder to contain and clean up. Although we can predict how much plastic is in our oceans, we still don't know where most of the plastic is. 99% is unaccounted for. So, what can you do? Don't rely on single-use plastic, but recycling is not the answer either. Buy less, use and repurpose what you have, Make sustainable swaps, like a bamboo toothbrush and reusable water bottle. Try to be less wasteful, but don't worry about being absolutely perfect. Each imperfect effort adds up, and it does make a difference. It is vital that we all make small changes to protect the world and the oceans.
Alright, okay, that was the journey of plastic. As interesting as it was, it's also kind of harrowing as well, do you know what I mean? I've just got some plastic stats here. So she said, even though they can predict how much plastic is in the ocean, 99% of it, they don't know where it is, 99% of it isn't accounted for. So what I've got here, 3 times plastic ocean stats in the ocean, plastic ocean stats, 3 times the size of France, the size of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a collection of floating plastic waste. You must have seen that. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? It's mad. Do you know what I mean? You get scuba divers, you get all these ocean explorers going out to it all the time, doing videos. Even though they're in the wetsuits, they're all covered. They're just swimming. How gross is that? It's massive. Like, France is pretty big. Do you know what I mean? England is it's not the biggest island, but it's not tiny either. But I don't know how many times England can get to France. But France is huge, and the fact that you've got something that size is floating around the Pacific Ocean, it's pretty daunting. You know what I mean? And like more could definitely be done, can't it? Should be done. Probably 9% of everything that we recycle every year, 9% of all plastics gets recycled every year. It's not the biggest number. I'm like, in my head, I'd like to know more, a little bit about recycling. I thought more was getting done. And maybe Lucy, you'll be able to fill us in a little bit more. You start there like, I've got some answers for that. I could tell you a little bit about that. We can say that for a bit later. And they're saying and this is the one thing that sort of got me last time, the first time I saw this. By 2050, that's not too far off. That's what, 30 years off. That's the year by 2050, that's the year where plastic will outweigh fish in the ocean. That's a scary thought. It's a very, very scary thought. Now, we're not here to scare people. We're not here to freak people out. We just want to be able to sort of like let people know about the issue that's going on with plastics now. And that's it. At the moment, it's a time to act now. Do you know what I mean? Or start thinking about what you can do. And we're not saying get rid of everything. Everything has to be metal. Get rid of all the plastic in your house. We're just starting to think, okay, next time, if you're going out for a shop today, make a few more conscious choices. Are there shops in your area that allow you to sort of take jars, glass jars, to do like refills, like cereal, seeds, spices?
Tupperware for meat.
Tupperware, that's a really good idea. So if you go to the butcher, you know what I mean? That's a wrapper and stuff like that. Lucy, can we see your flask as well? You've got a metal one.
Yeah.
I've got a recycled plastic one as well. So this is recycled plastic. Carrying stuff like that instead of getting bottles of water. Just little changes, do you know what I mean? That you can do as an individual that will sort of spread within your household, and that might spread to every person in that household's friendship groups and stuff. So you know, it's not a lot, is it? But I think for some people it feels like a massive task. Well, you look a bit freaked out. There's all this knowledge about what's going on with the world, plastic. Has it got you down a bit?
Yeah, it's quite a big thing that we're not really realising as much as we should. It's kind of opening my eyes a bit more.
So what do you think, like in your head, what do you think you could do as an individual to sort of try and make it a little bit better?
Well, so don't just stop buying bottled water. That could really help. Like, I've got a flask at home. I've got to bring it.
Don't worry about it, but you've got one. Do you know what I mean? That's something you still use. But look, the fact that you're here, you're taking part in this today, you can go back and tell your mates when you go back to school about the stuff that what you've been doing over lockdown before coming back to school, and that instill them with some of the knowledge that you're going to pick up today as well. There's stuff that can be done. Stuff that can be done. I just worry, like, I don't know, if your futures, like my futures, if I have like kids and grandkids, just them not having the opportunity to see fish and animals in their natural, in their natural habitat, because the oceans die, the fishes die, that affects everything that goes on land. So, Lucy, we're going to have a video that's been done by your dad. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
I didn't know anything about this really.
Okay, so you're watching this for the first time?
Yeah.
So he's made this video on the slide and you sort of snuck this in?
Yes.
Alright, okay, should we take it in? This is Professor Dan Parsons and Plastic Futures.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Daniel Parsons. I'm a Professor of Sedimentology at the Energy and Environment Institute at the University of Hull, and I lead the Energy and Environment Institute here at the university, and I also established a plastics collaboratory where we look into all aspects of the issues with the plastics crisis, from understanding where plastics end up in our environment in terms of pollution, but also seeking the solutions to the plastics problem in terms of novel plastics, and also transitioning or working in the best way to transition to something called a circular economy, where we're reusing, recycling plastics instead of disposing of them and risking that leakage into the environment. So there we bring together over 30 academics from psychology to chemistry together to really try to tackle these problems. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background to that, the issues with plastic, but also the real advantages to plastics as a material. I like to start talking in terms of resources and sustainability with this photograph. This is probably the most famous photograph ever taken. It was taken by Bill Anders on the Apollo missions, and it's called Earthrise. And it was really the first photograph of our home, Earth, taken from a different celestial body. And it really puts into perspective, I think, our home. We're on a globe. We have the resources for life on that globe, but they're finite, they're limited, they're not limitless. And this photograph really established the momentum behind the environmental movement. Indeed, the first Earth Day was just a year later, and I think that lots of our thinking about how we consume, what sustainability is, really came from this photograph and was inspired from it, because it really changed the perspective of the human race about its position within the broader universe. And when we think about limited resources, again, perspective's really important. This is again a picture taken from space, from NASA, looking at our atmosphere, and our atmosphere in terms of how thick it is. So when you look up on a bright sunny day, the sky seems limitless above our heads, but actually it's a very thin veneer. There's a limit to the amount of gas, the air that we breathe, and within that atmosphere, and it's limited in terms of its extent and its volume. And it's the same thing in terms of water. Here what we have is all of the water of Earth all brought together in two bowls, essentially. And we have the larger bowl, which is the saline water, it's the ocean water on the planet, all brought together. And then the smaller bowl that you can see here, that's the fresh water. So that's all of it brought together, and that really demonstrates, I think, the water is not limitless as well. And in fact, rather than being called the blue planet, we should probably be called the rocky planet, because these volumes in terms of these spheres really allow you to see the amount of water that we've got. And of course, the plastic that we're producing and is escaping into the environment is going into these reservoirs of water, and they're not limitless. We can't continue to dilute away the problem of plastics. But all that being said, plastics is an incredible material. It's really transformed the way in which we live as a global society. It's really an incredible material in terms of its versatility, and it's used in all sorts of sectors. And it's there for a whole range of reasons. There's a couple of examples here where it's being used for food packaging, and it preserves food for longer. It's really important within the supply chain of food in terms of reducing waste, extending shelf life, and reducing the carbon footprint of transportation. Plastic is lightweight, so it has a whole range of benefits, and that's why it's used. So we shouldn't forget those in terms of dealing with this problem. releasing it into the environment. Plastics is used in all sorts of things. Here, PVC windows, for example, massively increasing or reducing the carbon footprint of our households by retaining heat and efficiency of our houses. Plastic again is a fantastic material for doing exactly that. And of course, COVID-19 has really brought home the use of plastic in a sterile environment and how important it can be in both clinical settings, but also in terms of protecting ourselves from a range of infections. And again, plastic there plays a major role in terms of its use in that sector too. So there's all sorts of areas where plastics, its utility, its flexibility, its usability is really, really important in terms of that use. Now, when we think about global production of plastics, this gives you an example of the increase. So this is from 1950 to 2015, a massive increase, an exponential increase in plastics use. So we're now up and above 350 million tons of plastics produced each year, colossal volumes of plastics in terms of metric tons per year and are now being produced. And when we look at the cumulative totals again from 1950 until 2015 here, we're up at 7 billion tons of plastics being produced each year now. So massive volumes in terms of both again per year, but also that is increasing year on year. And the plastics generation is happening within certain areas of the globe. So here what we have is plastics waste generation per person. You can see the US and Western Europe, in particular Germany, tops the league here in terms of the amount of plastics produced per person on the planet, and nearly 0.5 kilogram per year per person in Germany. So massive volumes of plastics now being produced per person. But the way in which that plastics is managed is really important too. So this is waste material, how it's managed, how it's disposed of in terms of landfills. And although Western countries tend to deal with the plastics that they produced reasonably well when they retain them, lots of this plastic is exported into other parts of the world for disposal, and that's creating colossal problems in terms of the release of that plastic into the environment through rivers and into the ocean. Lots of this plastic is single use. So although we've talked about how important it can be and the sorts of uses of plastics over time, lots of this plastics pollution is packaging. Some in buildings, some in textiles and other sectors, but lots of it is single-use plastic, and that's where we can really begin to tackle this problem as a global society. And I'll talk to you very briefly now about the sorts of things that we can do in terms of that. So if we think about plastic waste and its disposal method, we are beginning to increase the amount that's recycled. We're still only at 20%, however. So there's lots of work to do, but we're beginning to recycle the plastic and reuse it in different ways. Incineration has also grown significantly, particularly in the developing world, where plastics are now burnt to produce energy, which isn't maybe a perfect long-term solution for plastics because it still releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, but nonetheless, at least it's dealing with the problem in some sort of way. In terms of it not then being released into waterways and the aquatic system, but there are lots of problems with incineration. Even with that, still over 50% of the plastics that we produce are discarded and put into landfill, and that's where the risks of leakage into the environment really come from. So we need to tackle this. We need to deal with ways in which we can reuse and recycle plastics much more effectively than we do at the moment. Now, when we do that, what we need to do is understand the pathways by which plastics enters the world's oceans and the different ways in which those plastics can do that. So how we think about different ways in which plastics move through into the global ocean, and around at the moment around 8 million tons of plastics per year is released into the ocean. So it's trying to understand the pathways in which that plastics is released into the environment that we really need to get to grips of, and use that with the transition, as I said at the start, to a circular economy. And I'll talk very briefly about that at the end. There's two different ways in which this can go, however. These are some simulations understanding the ways in which plastics can really begin to change in terms of the use of plastics into that sector. From an emissions growth to I'll just move myself here to 2050. So if we continue to release plastics into the environment as we are now, the concentrations of microplastics in the surface ocean will increase and increase over time. If we continue with our emission levels that we have now, again, we're still massively increasing the amount of plastics that end up in our oceans by 2050. But there is an alternative, and if we can stop the emission of plastic into the environment, we can begin to reduce the concentrations of plastic within the ocean over time, and that's really where we need to focus our efforts. Now, there are all sorts of ways in which we can do that, and we're working on some of these at the University of Hull, but they're not a silver bullet, and we need to understand that in a number of ways. There's lots of articles out there talking about the way in which plastics can be degraded away by bacteria eating plastics. Now, yes, that is a thing, and it can work, but the scale at which it can work is nowhere near where it needs to be at the moment. So it's not a short or even medium-term solution here in terms of having bacteria digest plastics and turn it into other recyclable materials. So there's lots of work to do in that sector. Some plastics are reused in other ways. You can get clothing that's made from recycled plastic, and although that's great in many ways because you're not consuming new materials, the way in which these clothing items break down still releases plastics into the environment. And lots of the time when plastics is recycled, it's actually downcycled. It moves from a very pristine product to a product that is not of as high quality plastic. So we're downcycling the entire time as we transition from different types of plastic through time. So again, there's lots of work to be done here in terms of how we best recycle plastics so it doesn't end up being a waste product at the end of that recycling pathway, and also that it doesn't end up being released into the environment just over a longer period of time. But again, there are pathways here in which we can explore and exploit these, and again, the amount of plastic being recycled is going up, so that's a very positive thing that we should celebrate. So finally, last two slides, just talking about what I mean by a circular economy. And what we're talking about here is really beginning to think about how we design into the products from the start, how they're going to be recycled. So rather than designing a product for looking best on the supermarket shelf, how do we design a plastics product so that it can be best recycled? There's a great example there in terms of using color additives within plastics. Might make it look really nice on the shelf in terms of a product, but it makes it really tricky to recycle it. So we need to rethink some of these things and design our products to ensure that both from production, from its use, how it's recycled, but how it's reused and recycled in here. So we really have this kind of circular flow of material, which means that the disposal and incineration that we have at the bottom here is a very thin part of this overall flow. And at the moment, it looks something more like this. So if we move from left to right here, this is the total amount of plastics being produced. This is the amount of plastics used once, and this is the plastics used that ends up in landfill. And you can see the big proportion of that ends up in landfill at the moment. This little bit here is where we really need to get to. So this is where how do we make the volume of this recycled still in use component that's just 100 million tons at the moment? How do we really ramp that up so the bars on this part of the chart really expand, and that's really where a transition to a circular economy is really needed. So with that, I'll leave you today. Hopefully that's talked you through some of the real advantages that plastics have, some of the problems that they're creating that we understand more fully now, but also some of the solutions in terms of the future, how we address this plastics crisis. And finally, I just want to say thank you to the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council for funding our plastics collaborative at the University of Hull that has led to us all coming together in an interdisciplinary manner to address this real problem of addressing plastics and their use into the future. Thanks very much.
Welcome back to the Reset Lab. Guys, do you know what? I don't know when I need to laugh at the fact that this is all happening, people know it's all happening, the figures and the data is there, or cry at the fact that this is all happening. You know what I mean? It's quite like, it's interesting that we know what plastics is doing, we know it's a problem, and there's obviously there's people like your dad, like yourself, that are trying to figure out and put teams together to see how we can fix it. So all hope is not yet lost, I think. I mean, I'm quite optimistic, but I thought that was amazing, that was fantastic. I like seeing stuff like that, which gives you like as real a picture as possible about what is going on, how people are sort of trying to tackle it. One of the things that really stuck out to me was this whole thing about downcycling plastic. Lucy, do you know quite a bit about downcycling plastic? Can you explain that for us?
So take this bottle for example. Once it's used, it goes in the bin, right?
Right.
If it's recycled, it never gets recycled into a bottle again, because when you recycle plastics, they kind of lose some of their quality.
So it's not like as durable, it's not as strong.
Yeah. So it'll get changed into something else, like say a bench or something like that.
Right.
Something that doesn't need as good plastic.
Okay.
And then from then it'll go on to something like clothes or something that needs clear plastic, because that's quite hard to make and find.
Right. That's interesting, because anytime we think of recycling, I don't know about you, but when I thought like, if I'm going to recycle a bottle, a plastic tub, or like some Tupperware or something, in my head, you know, and I'm totally simplifying it here, I used to think it was just like, it would get sent to a plant or get sent somewhere where it's cleaned, sterilised, maybe sort of like melted down, or then sort of made into what it was before. Because when you think of recycling, the word just seems to be like you take something and reuse it again in that sort of similar purpose. You think that, I reckon people should know a little bit more about downcycling, might make me think a bit more about what they're recycling, how much they should be recycling for. But no, that was really interesting. And that was talking about what are the best things to recycle.
Yeah.
What are the best bits of plastics to recycle?
I would say probably these things,
Right, okay.
because these can't recycle because they're crinkly plastic.
Right.
When you move them about, they make that crinkly kind of noise. Same with crisp packets, they make a noise as well. And then there's this type of plastic where it's paper as well as plastic. So what you should do really is you should kind of separate the two.
Right.
And then put that one in the bin and put the paper in the recycling.
Yeah, I bet most people just recycle the whole thing and think, oh, it's paper, plastic, they'll be able to do something plastic. But they never really have like markers on them that say, you know, have they obviously the logo and stuff that show you what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, on the bottom of these there are some logos. There's a really small one there,
And it's usually got a number in it as well.
Yeah, it says 1 on this one. And the type of plastic that this water bottle is made from is PET
Okay.
plastic.
So is that that's the best one we should be using?
Yes, and then this one says a 5 in it.
Yeah, because
And
I'm
this-
always trying to figure out what the numbers are about.
It's the type of plastic,
Right, okay.
and this one's called a PP.
Right. So what's the main difference between these two?
I don't really know.
So, because if it's a woman, that'd be like a better quality plastic, it might have a bit more longevity, or is it the higher the number, the more times you can sort of recycle it, so its quality sort of stays a bit more intact. Yeah. It makes sense. And I guess this is the type of stuff that a lot of people don't know about, really, do they? Do you know what I mean? It's like, in its simplest forms, it's just like, make sure you recycle, and that's what you have to do. And maybe at this point in time, that's probably enough. Because I'm sat here, I'm just thinking, oh my days, there's so much I didn't know. And it's like, it's really making me think of how much I'm actually doing, how much more I should be doing, and paying more attention to the numbers on the bottom of the containers. I'm seeing them, which is like, oh, that could mean something. But then instead of like Googling it, I'm just popping it in my recycle bin.
And these ones, what they say on them instead is they don't have the recycle sign. Instead, they'll have that little sign that means they can't be recycled.
Yeah, but it's good that they're putting it on so people know what cans can be used.
I think it's on this one as well.
But I do always wonder about that, because I'm glad you told us all the stuff that, like, is it, which is that sort of creases and crackles, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. There's, what we said about microplastics, that there's some groups, there's some sort of projects that are going to be set up to try and sort of take it out of the ocean. And I think is it your dad that's working on the one where they're trying to take microplastics out, turn them into things like wind turbines and stuff. That's really, really good. That's really, really interesting. Because I know that microplastics became like a big topic of conversation last year, like what you were telling us about the whale. Here's something that's going to freak out. Do you both eat fish?
Yeah.
So okay, you don't eat any meat at all. So here's something about fish. Apparently humans have more plastic inside them based on the fish that they're eating, because of like the fish have got some microplastics in them. It's in their sort of like body, in their meat, in their sort of in their system. So when we eat it, when people eat it, it goes into humans as well. So that can like affect us.
If I didn't like fish that much, that would have put
Would
me
it
off.
put you off? Is it not put you off?
No, because I love fish.
Oh my it's just not enough. How much plastic has to be in a fish to put you off eating fish? Like a full carry bag and that's
I don't know.
and it's not enough. Not enough.
Microplastics, to be called microplastics, they have to be smaller than a millimetre.
Right, okay. So tiny than a millimetre.
Yeah.
And that's coming from everything. So when people look off their makeup, even microplastics that get into washing up liquid and then all that sort of microplastics are everywhere. And I thought what your dad was saying about the clothing, that was really important as well.
Yeah.
Because I always thought like, if you did have clothing made out of plastic, surely when it's in the washing machine and the water gets drained, it goes into the drainage system, obviously goes out in the ocean. Clearly that must be taking the plastic out of the clothing into the ocean.
It does.
So is it a bad idea to make plastics into clothing? Are we actually helping ourselves? Are we doing ourselves? What do you think?
I don't really know, but when you wear plastic that's in your clothing, sometimes when you're out and about, plastic comes off your clothing and it goes into the air and then you breathe in plastic.
Right, okay, so it's just like, so if I'm wearing this, I don't know what material it is, it's like a nylon thing, it obviously, everything that is synthetic has got plastic sort of woven into it. So things like denim, it's hard to find 100% denim these days. They put plastic and denim and other fibres, other materials into it, which is why it breaks and tears, because it's not as strong, it's not sturdy and stretchy. So I guess when I'm walking around, legs are rubbing together, and the wind's blowing, plastic is going everywhere. This is it. You know, we're living in a plastic-dominated world.
Unless your label on your clothes says 100% cotton, that means it's got plastic in it.
Well, I don't know about you, Lucy, but I don't know. Not all of us have the money to be splashing out on 100%
all of mine are.
100% cotton clothing. Because I guess plastic makes things a lot cheaper. It makes things a lot more convenient in production. So which is why people go for this sort of stuff. So we're in this age now, aren't we? Of like convenience over, I guess, awareness of our environment. We're just so comfortable with thinking, well, if you make my life a little bit easier, then the ends, to some people, justify the means. So, I think we're going to watch the plastic wrap video again, and then we're going to come to yourself, and then we're going to grill you on all your knowledge about plastics. Is that all right?
Yeah.
You ready for this? All warmed up? Yeah? You got some questions for Lucy as well? Yeah? Will's ready to grill. He's here. He's got the questions. He wants to expand his knowledge, and obviously we've got Lucy here for us as well. So please, guys, one more time, you can enjoy this. It is the plastic wrap.
I'm just a drink cup and you can call me red. I kinda feel like I'm hanging on by a thread. Ever since I took my trip onto the streets, when I was just chilling on somebody's car seat. My journey starts when I was split into parts. People just don't think when they throw me out of cars. Into the woods and around the neighbourhoods, scattered near and far. This really isn't good. Hi, I'm Riley, I'm a plastic bottle. I'm here to tell the world all about my battle with plastic pollution destroying the sea. I wouldn't be here if it was up to me. I'm hating lots of fish and turtles around. The sea is not a place where bottles should be found. Please be responsible and just recycle. Protect the environment, it's so vital. Where the trash left on the floor, this is a song you can't ignore. So let's take action right away, cause if you don't, you'll surely pay. Everyone come off your seat and clap your hands to the beat. Keep your rubbish off the ground and play your part, don't let us down. My name's Rose, that's my introduction. I've been used for reconstruction. I was a crisp packet from someone's jacket, feeling so blue with no one to talk to. But then somebody found me up in the hills that knew how to use their recycling skills. Now I'm so happy because I'm part of a wall with other eco bricks all standing tall. My name's Reese and I'm a plastic spoon. I was left on the beach one afternoon. The people walked off and never noticed me. Then the tide came in and swept me out to sea. A seagull came down and pecked me away, then dropped me on the ground. I was left to decay, nowhere to stay, discarded by the bay, with humans walking by me every day. Where the trash left on the floor, this is a song you can't ignore. So let's take action right away, cause if you don't, you'll surely pay. Everyone come off your seat and clap your hands to the beat. Keep your rubbish off the ground and play your part, don't let us down. I was a baby turtle swimming in the sea. My life went sideways after what I'd seen. I remember when my home was beautiful and clean. Now it's full of plastic and polystyrene. That's when I knew I had to make my voice heard. The pain it was causing was really upset, but there's so many people that stand in my way. No one should think that littering's okay. At Pollutants Anonymous I met 4 friends, and this is where our story begins. It was Rose, Riley, Red and Reese. We started to try and put the world at peace. A better world may seem out of reach, but reducing waste is the aim of our speech. If we listen up and we do our bit, the earth won't become just a plastic pit. Reuse, recycle, repurpose, reduce. Time to think about the rubbish we produce. Reuse, recycle, repurpose, reduce. One day in the future we can make a truce. There you go. And then it kind of like fades out as you're doing that. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So, there you go. Let me stop that recording and see how that came.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Reset Live. Can we give a shout out to Plastic Citizens and put all that together? I reckon it's something we're going to see on TV today, I think. A bit like that. Will's a bit daunted by the whole plastic mess, isn't he? He's daunted by plastics, he's hungover, he's been partying up. He's been partying on like, this is the life of a YouTube celebrity. Anyway, welcome back to the Reset Live. We're talking about plastics this morning, and we're going to give Lucy a little bit more of I was going to say plastic grilling, but that's a bit unfair. Just chat a bit more about your work and stuff you've been doing with plastic movement. So you said when we started your journey to plastics, you came about seeing the Blue Planet video of this whale who made loads of plastics. his hair and hair calf, it was a hair and hair calf. Once you started making it for your mom and your brother, think, okay, I need to do more. I need to sort of be part of the change that could hopefully help save our planet in the future. So, from, I guess, from first being sort of triggered into thinking, what can I do? What can I be aware of plastic? How did you start to sort of gather information? Did you go and speak with your parents, or was it just online? What was the main resource that you get information?
My mum and my dad told me a lot about plastic pollution.
Okay.
But they still didn't really know that much.
Right. So you're teaching them now?
Yeah. So there was this big storm, and the next day afterwards we went to the beach and we did a huge lift and we got like 8 bags full of plastic.
Whereabouts was this?
Was it? I think it was either Hornsey or Bridlington.
Okay.
And then I did it with one of my friends, and then after I did that, I got contacted by the Deep, and they'd asked me to be part of a conference about ocean plastics.
Is that when you did your TED Talk?
I did my first speech there when I think I was about 9.
Okay. What were you mainly talking about during the speech? What was the main focus?
Plastic pollution.
Plastic pollution.
Yeah, I opened the entire conference,
Right.
and there were about 200 aquarium curators from all over the world, all over Europe even.
How did that feel? Was it quite scary?
It was, at first I couldn't stop shaking,
Right.
and I was really, really nervous. But then when I was doing it, I kind of felt okay, because everyone was like there and they were encouraging me, and they weren't like, they listened to me, and I like that feeling where it was like I could feel that they were taking in what I was saying, and they were really like
supportive.
listening in.
Yeah.
And after I did that, I just became more and more involved with plastics, and slowly I became interested in climate change as well, and I learned more about the climate crisis, and so now I really do both.
Cool. So it's like one, I guess when you become aware of one thing, it leads you into something about the other, because you can't look at climate change without focusing on plastics as well.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like, it feels quite empowering being heard by adults, isn't it? And like,
Yeah.
that they want to be here and want to listen to what I have to say.
For some reason, I'm more confident talking to adults rather than children.
How come?
Because I feel like some children at my school, they make fun of me for what I do.
Really?
Yeah. And so what I do is, I feel that adults won't laugh at me and tease me if I say something wrong or do anything wrong.
Do you know what it is? I think because when I was at school, people used to like make fun of me for my interests and like habits and stuff, and stuff, comics and different types of music and stuff. And I found like as I got older, the very same kids that were giving me grief and teasing me and stuff were the ones that were getting into it and then coming to me and asking me questions about this sort of stuff. And I feel like a lot of kids, they don't have the courage to throw themselves into something that's a bit different. And I think other kids that might have something to say about it. So I think you're on the right path. But usually, and I always say this to people, if you're doing stuff that everybody likes, you're doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's got to have an opinion about stuff. I think you just need to continue. You need to soldier on, because like as you get older, the more knowledge you're going to amass. But when that means your world is opening up. 9 years old, you're opening up a conversation, a conference to 200 aquarium curators. That's massive. The same type of skills, experience you have, you're going to take in place. So what are the other kids that are taking the mic and teasing for it, just ignore that. You'll be teaching them someday.
When I did my speech at the Deep, the EU Commissioner was there as well, and he told me that I was saving thousands of turtles when I did my speech. And because of me, he made everyone in every aquarium in Europe pledge to do something about plastics.
Right, Lucy, we've got the Makerspace crafts, but I've got some more questions for you. I know Will's got some questions for you, but we'll come back to that right after this. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in to us at the Reset Lab. Here's Makerspace crafts. Got it in. Guys, welcome back to the Reset Lab. I'm Kofi.
I will.
And I'm Lucy.
Awesome. We've been talking about plastics this morning. It's not all doom and gloom, is it? You know, plastics, they have been helping us get through this interesting time with the coronavirus. Obviously with hand gels, anti-bac gel, face masks, PPE, and some of it, I think, has been printed here as well. Have you guys been printing PPE here using a 3D printer? You know, there are good uses of it, there are proper uses of it. It's made well, made right, and I guess disposed in the right way. So, I guess it's just like anything, isn't it? It's just all about finding that balance. It's like finding that way to sort of live with it, living it in a sustainable manner that is, can help us, but also that doesn't harm our environment as well. So, we've got some good ideas, we've got some good things to take away, and we're going to check in again with Lucy herself, because we've got a few more things a few more gems, a few more bits of knowledge you want to drop to us, isn't it? Honestly, I'm learning a lot. Everyone's been saying that. It's been like every day. It's like a school day, and today's just been like probably buzzing. So we're going to get into this at the grips of your TED Talk in a little bit later. And also, you can tell us you've been keeping your friends and like people at school up to date with what is going on with plastics and stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about your essential message as a campaigner? I thought it was the 3 R's, but apparently we've got one more.
Yeah, so now there's 4 R's instead of 3.
Okay.
And they are refuse. So in the first place, you refuse to buy plastic, and if you have to buy plastic, then you reduce the amount that you buy.
Okay. So reduce the second one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then the third one is if you have to take it in, then recycle it.
Right.
And then if you can't recycle it, repurpose it.
Repurpose. Okay.
So give it another purpose, like take this bottle for example. You could cut it and then turn it into a bird feeder.
Oh my god, I was just thinking bird feeder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a rain gauge.
What's that?
So like if you cut it in half,
Yeah.
then you can turn the bottom half to record how much rain there is.
Oh, okay.
And then an idea to do with the top half is if you glue a stick onto the side, and then you can stick it into a plant, and you can put that plant outside, and then when it rains, it'll all collect in there, and you can have the bottle lid off.
Right. Okay.
So then all of the water kind of goes into the plant.
I like that. Well, you can talk about the who mentioned yesterday? Self-watering plant.
Oh, no, that
That was you. Was that you as well?
Yeah.
Okay, it's all coming together now, isn't it? The universe is aligned right there. That's one of those moments I look at. Repurposing. We forget about repurposing a lot, don't we? That's the last one. So I like it. So the four round refuse buy plastics if you can. If you do buy plastics, what's the second one? Refuse. The third one, obviously, is you recycle, and obviously the fourth one, repurpose that. So you need to get that on like t-shirts. The 4 things you need to remember. That's it. Maybe you can commit in the space, just like Will has done with his guinea pig merchandise. I'm still amazed. I told my friends about guinea pig merchandise. I said that's got to be one special guinea pig. But that's a conversation for later on. Okay, so obviously this morning Calvin Innes has been working hard as usual, creating. I think he's put some colours for the monsters, carrying on some of the work that he was doing yesterday with you guys on the live stream. So I want to direct you over. You might not be able to see this to facebook.com, Calvin Innes Art. That's where you can see him doing some work. He's going to take over for like the next 10-15 minutes, and it's going to be amazing. Send him some thoughts, some questions, ask him anything that you want to know about what it takes to be an artist or how to draw some specific things. But we'll hand over to you, Calvin. definitely keep an eye on all the work that Calvin's going to be doing. He's going to be streaming, he's going to be drawing all day. I can just see some of the monsters that he created yesterday. It's starting to add a bit of colour to them. They look fantastic. So, any questions about what it means to be an artist and an illustrator? Even as a businessman as well. There's loads of things. Just fire away. Keep an eye on his Facebook page. Keep drawing, keep trying as well. So, it's good what we were talking about yesterday. What Calvin was saying about what it means to be a creator, what it means to be an artist. He said it's just all about perseverance, hard work, and keeping at it, and trying stuff. I think it's the same sort of sentiment to what we talk about with plastics and recycling. Like I said, you've been at this for about a couple of years now, Lucy.
Yeah.
It's you finding new things out. It's your interest and your knowledge, and everything is taken through different turns and through, I guess, different interests, and finding different things that you can do to sort of help the client, I guess, survive a little bit longer. So you've gone from plastics to climate change, and who knows where that's going to take you in the future. We want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a campaigner. So obviously you are doing so many different things. What does it mean to be a campaigner? What does a campaigner look like to you?
Well, I don't really have to do that much.
No?
Like, I'm not doing it like every single day, like onto it. There's like a couple of days a week where I sit down and do a webinar with my different organisations.
Okay.
And we do different like Zoom calls and things to get up to date and for them to get our opinions on different things. But I also like to spend my before COVID, I used to like spending my free time doing list picks and stuff like that. But now I can't do that because of COVID. I used to have a monthly list pick with my village.
Right. Oh, really?
But we can't do that anymore because of COVID again.
You might figure out a way to do it socially distanced.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everybody sort of turns up, gloves, masks, there's a little pickups and they're a little area.
We do have to share out equipment though,
Right,
like
okay.
litter pickers and stuff that the council gave us.
Suppose if you've got gloves on and everyone's like cleaning them before they sort of take their to put their hands on them and stuff, it could work. As things get eased a little bit more, as you
Yeah.
sort of look down, like what's kind of ways around it and stuff. But
Hopefully.
I'll keep the fingers crossed for you. How much? You said you've been speaking with your organisation. What organisation is that?
So I'm an I Will ambassador.
Okay, I Will Ambassador. Yeah.
I have been doing some stuff for NCB. I don't have a badge for that.
Okay. Not yet.
Not yet. But it's the National Children's Bureau, and I'm a YRA, Young Research Advisor.
Okay.
So sometimes we do some things on that, and then I've been contacted. My mum signed me up to Global Social Leaders, and I did a course of that. And in a couple of days, I'm going to be going to the graduating ceremony.
Okay.
It's on it's a webinar, and I'm going to graduate from their course.
Oh well, cool. Congratulations. So are you going to have any opportunity to speak to any of the grads, ask them some questions and pressing things that might be on your mind, that might be able to help further your knowledge or your research? So
I don't know.
yeah, just send them an email and be like, oh, can I get an interview? See who's going to be there and see if you can, just because you never know who you're going to talk to or what they're going to, what information they're going to give you. And it's very important to get things like emails, make contact in fields that you might potentially want to work in, or get some work experience in the future. Just anything that you can do to sort of push you forward and drive that passion and stuff to keep you really interested. But I think your head's on now. You know what I mean? You're killing it. I've learned a lot more. What do you think? It's been quite a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to take in. Was a bit hungover. He got drunk on donuts last night, so he's dealing with the rush. You wanted to talk about Kids Against Plastics as well. This is something that's quite important to you.
Yeah, I'm an ambassador for them as well.
Right. Is that? Do you have how does the ambassador work? What, is it local or just in general, like for the entire brand?
I spread the word about them.
Right.
So really, you just need to be a campaigner on plastic and do your best to spread the word. Because the more people who know about it, the more people want to do something. So so we really need to tell people about the problem.
So you might be interested in more, do you think? Getting out there, telling people about plastics. Getting involved with
The way
kids
to
against
join them,
plastic.
you can join them by going onto their website, and then you can go on there and you can become a Plastics Clever school
Right.
or Plastics Clever Scouts Club or guides.
So you can have like a focus on plastics and you have like
Yeah.
resources and support. So
Yeah,
that's what you want. You want to make sure you're part of a bigger network, sort of breaking down. I guess breaking down the work and the things that need to be done in order to sort of tackle something as big as this, especially when you're working in conjunction with the schools and scouts groups and stuff. You feel like you're part of like a bigger machine tackling this bigger issue, and it makes it feel a bit more manageable, a bit more digestible. So, Lucy, that's been good. You've been absolutely fantastic. So, if the people that are watching at home, if you could leave them with a message, what would you want them to take away from what we've been talking about today and from all the videos and stuff that we've seen?
you can really do anything to help. It doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter if it's big or small, it will make a difference, and it's the difference that counts.
You've got a few ideas for like t-shirt slogans as well.
Yeah.
When you're massive, touring the world, giving talks, setting up programs, getting kids, like schools, businesses involved in that plastic. I guess this mission against plastic.
I have done a speech in Austria
You've done a speech in Austria. When was that?
a year ago.
How are you telling us this now? At the end, what was going on with the speech in Austria? How can you use that?
It was with all the scientists basically came together
Right.
for this annual scientist thing, and my dad was in it.
Oh, right, okay.
So
Was he talking as well?
yeah, so my family went to Austria on holiday because it was in the middle of the summer holidays, and my dad did that, and so on one day I went along and I did a speech there to a group of scientists.
Nice. So
Who could make a difference.
that's the second speech you did.
I think that one was the third.
Sorry,
one.
the third speech that you've done. You're like, get it right, Kofi. Put some respect to my name, please. No, that's amazing. So all this sort of stuff, it's just going to add up and it's going to take you places. You've just got to persevere. Just keep on this path. Because if you feel like it's the right thing to do, and like this is for anyone, if you feel like something's the right thing to do, something that you want to do, you believe in something, you just got to keep going. And like no matter what happens, you're going to get naysayers along the way. There's going to be people that are going to be trying to get the path of resistance to what you want to do, what you want to fight for, what you believe in. You just got to ignore the haters, mate. Do you know what I mean? Just dust them off. Just carry on doing what you've got to do. So no, Lucy, thank you very much for taking some time out today and joining us today. Thanks to your dad as well, who cheekily hasn't worn some smart clothes so he could get on camera. He said, "Oh, I can't get on screen because I'm not dressed for it." So we'll get him next time. But Dan, thank you very much for the video you put together and allowing Lucy to come join us this morning. Lucy, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, you're on Twitter. Do you need to find you on Twitter?
Yeah.
So if anyone asks you or your dad or your mum and dad any questions, find you on Twitter. So that's been really, really good. Thank you very much. So remember, we've got refuse, reduce, recycle, and repurpose, the 4 R's. That's a good number. 4 is a good number. 4 is a good number. So Will, how have you found today? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been really interesting.
Lot to take in. Things to consider when you go back to school, and obviously little increments, as Lucy was saying, that we can factor into your life. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm Kofi. This is and
Lucy.
we're going to be back at about 3 o'clock. We're looking at connections, things that make us attached to things like friends, family, and just the world around us as well. Keep it right here. Callum is also going to be continuing to be streaming. Calvin, sorry, is going to be streaming live later on, and you can still catch us on the Big Malarkey website, the Freedom Festival website, and the app as well. So keep it right here. Have a good lunchtime. Make sure you're going to be joining us. We'll be back from 3. Calvin, what time are you going to be back from? 1 o'clock. Calvin is getting a very short lunchtime and he's going to be back at it and working those fingers. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. This has been the Reset Lab, Day 2, Part 1. Lots of add-ons.